Hey there, everyone. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the story of Samson, the strongest man who ever lived. And if that wasn't enough, he was also blind. It is quite an amazing story, so let's get into it. So in the Bible, Samson's story is told across two chapters, Judges chapter 12 through 16. His story begins with his parents, Manoah and his wife, who were from the tribe of Dan. They were a barren couple, meaning they had no children, but one day an angel of the Lord appeared to his mother and told her that she would bear a son whose strength would be like that of Samson. The catch was that this child would never eat anything unclean, and he would never cut his hair, because that Nazirite vow had been placed upon him. The angel said that while the vow lasted, his strength would last, but when he broke the vow, his strength would leave him. It is important for us to know that the Nazirites believed that the hair on their heads was sacred because that is where God's spirit would rest. As such, they would never cut their hair or shave their beards, and they would also avoid eating grapes, which were fermented. That is because the Nazirites saw the act of drinking alcohol as them drinking the blood of someone who was killed. Because back then they didn't have blood banks, so they would kill an animal, drain its blood, and use that blood in place of their own. That way they could receive the life force of that animal, which would then increase their own life force. Now, shortly after hearing all of this, his mother went into labor and gave birth to a baby boy, and immediately upon being born, he began to tear apart the foxes in the fields. Now, his father went over to a man who was experienced in spiritual matters and asked him, "What should we name this child?" And the man said, "Samson." He took that name from the Hebrew word Shemshon, which means son. And that is why we have sun signs, because Samson was born under the sign of the sun. As he grew older, Samson's strength increased more and more, and he became known throughout Israel and even throughout the surrounding areas. One day, he decided to visit a Philistine city, and while he was there, he met a woman named Delilah. Now, from the little information we do have on her, she was a prostitute, but she was also a manipulator, a liar, and a traitor. But despite all of this, Samson fell in love with her. He really liked this woman. Now, when the leaders of the Philistines heard about Samson having been in that city, they became very scared and went to Delilah and offered her 1,100 pieces of silver if she could somehow find out what Samson's secret was. You know what made him so strong. And obviously she accepted the offer, because why not? For 1,100 pieces of silver, she would gladly betray this man. And just like that, Delilah set her plan into motion. At first, Samson was very resistant to telling her his secret. In fact, he called her a whore and walked away from her. But eventually, she started to wear him down and made him feel bad for not trusting her. After all, how could this strong man be afraid to trust a simple woman? And before long, he revealed to her that he had been bound by a Nazirite vow, and that was what gave him his strength. If he cut his hair, he would become weak and powerless. Now, the interesting thing here is that Samson was aware of this. He knew that if he cut his hair, he would lose his powers, but he did it anyway. And the reason for this is found in Judges chapter 16, verse 20. It says, "Then Delilah said, 'How can you say, I love you, when your heart is not with me? You have mocked me these 3 times. Now I will tell the last riddle. And truly, truly this time you shall deal with me according to your own heart.'" From this verse, we learn that Delilah was playing mind games with Samson. She wanted to make him choose between her and his powers, and ultimately, he chose her. Now, the moment he cut his hair, she had him taken away by the Philistines, and they came to him while he was asleep. And the first thing they did was gouge out his eyes. They then tied him up and took him to Gaza, where they chained him to pillars in the temple. And finally, they brought in a great crowd, including the leaders of the Philistines. Then they began to mock him, calling him names like Seer of Israel and asking him to guess what kind of wine they were serving him, etc. At some point, Samson started feeling very humiliated. Because he was losing his eyesight, he was being mocked by thousands of people, and he was stuck in the middle of the most powerful nation around. And so he prayed, "Lord, remember me. Oh God, and please give me strength just this once, just enough strength to avenge my blindness." And just like that, God granted him his wish. Samson stood up, leaned against one of the pillars, and pushed with all of his might. And that caused the main pillar to fall, which then crushed the other pillars. And the roof came crashing down on top of them. And in total, 3,000 Philistines lost their lives that day. Samson also died in the collapse, and so we don't know what happened afterward. But some people believe that he was resurrected and ascended into heaven. Others believe that he died and remained dead. We simply don't know. What we do know is that after this event, Israel was able to defeat the Philistines and gain control over the land. Now, there are many lessons we can learn from Samson's story. First of all, we learned that it is very easy for us to take our abilities for granted. When Samson was young, he probably thought he would have his strength forever. And because of that, he broke his Nazirite vow and had his powers taken away. Secondly, we learned that we should never underestimate our enemies. Samson chose to trust a prostitute over his Nazirite vow, and that ended up getting him betrayed and blinded. Thirdly, we learned that even though God sometimes gives us abilities, talents, and gifts, if we use them to sin, He can and will take them away from us. Lastly, we learned that even when we break God's laws and commandments, He is still faithful. Even after Samson broke his vow, God still answered his prayer and helped him take out the Philistines. We live in a world where we are constantly bombarded with messages to sign, and I am no exception. I receive offers every single day to promote things that go against my beliefs. But thankfully, because I am submitted to God, I can resist the devil and his demons, and I choose to stay pure. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.